Hello, I'm horror cartoonist Dennis St. John. I draw monsters and write twisted tales. As you can imagine, I was a little obsessed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Lucky for me, so were most of my high school friends, all except one. One friend who stubbornly refused to join the Scoobies. So here we are, 20-some-odd years later. I'm teaming up with Doc Travis, John Teach Landis, and maybe a special guest or two. And we're going to make our friend, Michael Poley, watch one episode of Buffy a week until he's no longer the Buffy Virgin. Hey everybody, welcome to Buffy Virgin, a spoiler-free Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast. We're going to be very sad this week because it's Season 5, Episode 19, Tough Love. I'm your host, cartoonist Dennis St. John, and we have with us friend of the cast and returning guest, David Yoder.
I thought you were going to say Michael, the Virgin, but yeah, I'm here. I'm David. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And why don't you other two introduce yourselves and say how long it's been since you've been to a culture fair?
Who's more cultured than the other?
But let's be fair.
My name is Michael. I'm the Virgin. I've only seen Buffy up to Season 5, Episode 19, and I went to a Greek festival a year ago. Technically, Greek is culture.
My name's John Landis, and I went to the Greek festival in Dayton, Ohio when I was 12 years old.
I was going to ask, does watching Midsommar count, or is that a different thing?
We're all our own judges here. And before we start the podcast proper, I just wanted to tell everybody that what's going on with me right now, just because this crisis will have passed before this episode actually airs, but I'm evacuated right now from the Kincaid fires in Sonoma County. So I'm recording from a different location. I had to, escape my home, leave my home to escape the fires, but my commitment to the podcast is strong. I just wanted to let you guys know, in case you're watching on YouTube, see a new background, or when you're listening, if I get distracted by phone calls or something, that is what's going on. All right. Thanks for bearing with me. And now let's move on to reactions for Checkpoint.
Audience reactions.
All right. So we had a lot of strong reactions this week. I'm going to start with the Twitter reactions from @RenanOz, who first says, welcome back, fam. So thanks for that. In defense of Stephen Moffat, because I was trashing Stephen Moffat, he leans on none of those writerly crutches in his best and most seminal work, Press Gang. Honestly, it's quite possibly the best content for young people ever made. Yep, I said it. # Linda Day for PM. And I haven't seen Press Gang, so thank you for those recs. I stand by my trashing of his lazy story writing, but only in that he keeps doing this one thing that I was complaining about. But I'm sure that's a good show. I've never even heard of it. She goes on to say, wowzers, as someone who works in an office that deals extensively with Australian citizenship and immigration matters, I have never heard of such a basic questioning of the provided context of a potential migrant, like, ever. So burn on you, Mike.
Wait, why a burn? Because they should have been more exhaustive in their interrogation of Travis?
Or you should have just been accepting that this is what happens. Although I'd say I bet that, those people do complain outside of the office about it. I don't know. I just think we were just complaining. I don't know.
Well, we were complaining because Giles is like, citizenship is so confusing, and it sounds like the Watcher Council can revoke it somehow. And we were trying to understand how that happened, and then that's all it took for me to get into my citizenship hole and talk about getting Australian citizenship.
Well, now you know somebody who works in that office, Michael. I think you should keep that in your back pocket.
Oh, yeah, let me keep that Twitter handle in my pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously it's still easier, like, as many hoops as your wife might have had to jump, it's still easier to do than, like, an immigrant trying to get asylum in America or anything. Like, this was just, it's just like first world complaints. Right? Which I know there's a term for that, but I forgot it. And she also says, I'm just going to politely suggest that for many of us, it's hard to get outraged by systematic patriarchal control as repped by the Watchers Council because we experience versions of it every day. And yes, usually even the good guys perpetuate its norms. So yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, we were getting worked up, especially one of us who isn't here. He can't defend himself. But you know, we're passionate people. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. All right, now we're gonna get into the YouTube comments. Actually, does somebody else want to read these?
I'll read Silver Spike's. Silver Spike quotes, I believe, Michael back to his face and says, "I would like these stories to be more concise, short tales." Oh dear. Seriously? Then IMO, you are watching the wrong TV show. Lol. BTVS has always been about character arcs that develop through linked seasons/episodes. And yeah, you seem to prefer to pigeonhole Spike's character and see him in only one light. Oh well, your loss. Oh, and as to your problem with Giles and the Watcher Council, sorry, Giles has stood up to them in the past. Giles is no coward, and in fact, I've never seen anyone say that before. IMO, you all seem to have a lot of issues with the male characters, and yet give characters like Anya a free pass.
I just want to say, of course we give Anya a free pass. She's hilarious.
I mean, yeah, I have no problem with this comment because I feel like it's true that we do look at the male characters a little more closely, and I think that that is a reflection of where all of our heads are at watching this show at this particular time, and not just in history, but in our own personal lives. Like, we were big fans of this show in maybe a little bit less critical way when we were younger, and now we're rewatching it, most of us, for the fourth, fifth, sixth time, and I feel like there's a little bit of a focus there, and I don't think that that's something I feel like apologizing for.
And Silver Spike, can't you see I'm trapped? Can't you hear my call for help? I would like these stories to be more concise, short tales, but they're not. It's year 4 or whatever it is of us meeting up every week to do this. Help me, Spike.
I mean, that's good, Mike. You're trapped. I'm sorry. The room. It's you're losing air. But I think I also disagree with Silver Spike's assessment that the stories have always, that's always been about character arcs that develop through linked seasons and episodes. One thing I think is really interesting about this rewatch is that this show occupies an interesting place in TV history, where it moves from more short tales to longer story arcs, and that's something I've commented on from the beginning. And this watch through, I prefer the shorter tales, like Mike. So I don't think the show's always been about these longer things. I just think it's a changing show, and we're right now at season 5. We're kind of in the middle of this change where it is moving to less like standalone stories.
It does make it easier with a show too when there are standalone stories to like pick a random one to like just watch for fun as opposed to doing a giant rewatch, I would say. Like, like there are still those ones that like will stand out of being like, oh, it's the one where there's the Buffy bot or whatever, that you guys just did. But when it's like the big overarching story, sometimes it's hard to divide up what happened in those individual episodes to be like, what's this one again?
Yeah. And I miss the Monster of the Weeks,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if there's like one end of the spectrum that is, I don't know, The Simpsons or something, where like literally every episode has to be 100% reset at the end. And then the other end of the spectrum is like Walking Dead, where there's so much link between episodes that literally nothing is ever resolved inside of an episode, and it just feels like this endless sort of slog. I feel like Buffy is a nice halfway point, right? It's like it's the midway point in that evolution between the ways that we seem to do television storytelling, and I think coming from where we are now, where we're definitely more in the like where the long slog version of storytelling is the norm. I think it does feel like we do tend to, what we're going to pick out and talk about in Buffy is the fact that it's shorter, and like that's what we like about it, or maybe we want it to be more that way, because again, that's what's different about it from normal television.
All right, moving on to Geraint Thatcher, whose name I might have said right or wrong. I don't recall. I'm sorry.
He did teach us how to say it, and then we immediately forgot.
Why didn't Glory follow through on her threat, i.e. kill the mum then tell Buffy her sister is next, unless she tells her where the key is. Besides the character shields, I mean. Also, watchers like those in the Fates episode, couldn't they have found actors with, and I forgot to click more, but with like proper English accents? And I totally missed it this episode, but thanks for calling that out.
Anon Mouse says, I was going to comment on the creepy puppet people, but then I got mesmerized by the creepy puppet people. So here are my belated comments. 1, it was the only one of your episodes that I watched the whole way through. And 2, I couldn't decide what was creepier, the moving demon eyes or Dennis looking shifty in a young girl's bedroom.
Thank you for that, Anonymous.
This one broke my heart that Anon Mouse has been commenting on our videos for ages and has never watched an entire one of them. Apparently, I mean, I know it's a long, boring podcast, but I thought at least a few people were listening to the whole thing.
Well, thank you for watching all the way through. And I agree, I was looking very shifty in a young girl's bedroom. All right, that has been Great Lines. That has been responses. Let's move on to Great Lines.
Great Lines.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Willow with the cheesy action movie line where, Glory says, bag of tricks, bag of knives. And it doesn't fit Willow's character at all, but it was great.
It's the new Willow.
Bag of treats.
This is from Dawn. This is a really fun moment with her and Buffy. She says, those monks put K through 8 in my head. Can we wait to see if they drop 9 in there too? Boom. And it's like mic drop. And that's when Buffy drops the real knowledge. Anyway, that's a great spot.
That is solid. I'm picking a Willow line also. She goes, well, I took Psych 101. I took it from an evil government scientist who was skewered by her own Frankenstein-like creation before the final. But I know what a Freudian slip is. That to me was like such classic Buffy lines where it's like, we're having a very serious conversation, but we have to take a moment to call out the craziness of our lives.
I picked a Willow line myself right after the human triangle demonstration. Willow says, you know me. I'm like, go school. It's your birthday.
Good choices all.
The summary.
Dear college, it's not. You, it's me I need to take care of Dawn.
This haiku brought to you by applesauce. It's what you get spoon-fed when you lose your mind.
Welcome to Tough Love. This is the episode where Buffy becomes a parent.
But I'm sure this will all...
Dawn, why don't you wait outside for a few minutes?
Giles tortures a minion.
What happened?
Changed his mind.
Anya discovers she's a real American.
I've recently come to realize there's more to me than just being human.
Tara loses her mind. And Glory tracks down the key.
All right, let's do the kill count before we jump in.
The kill count.
So, we have 1 major, dramatic brain drain. And in round 5 of Buffy vs. Glory SmackDown, this round, by the narrowest of margins, goes to Buffy with a tag team from a majorly pissed off Uber Willow. And that's all we got for the kill count. Let's move on to weird noticings and trivia.
Weird noticings.
So to start with, I have the world's least interesting zoom in and enhance, where you can see if you, I do have a screenshot in there. You can see Giles next to the back door of the magic box has a little chalkboard that says, it says, clock gets wound on the 1st of every month. Remember, spring forward. Everyone is counting on it.
He's
He's got a great little reminder about his clocks on the chalkboard.
It's cute. All right. Yoder, you found something?
So I just have a question about the opening scene where Buffy's like quitting her class. That they're trying to make it like cut in some humor with the dramatic stuff going on. But my question, I guess, is what is the joke here? Is it that like jokey or that Buffy doesn't know what a haiku is? That her professor doesn't know that the slide projector is called a carousel? Is it the slide getting stuck and getting thrown out? Is it my weird read that I have that when the professor says, "I'm glad you like poetry, Buffy," that is this actually not a poetry class and she's quitting some other class and talking about poetry in this class, which like that feels like a betrayal for like I know she has a lot going on in her life, but like it's like Buffy's dumb, can't pay attention to what's going on or something. I don't know. That's my mini rant there on that. Did anyone else? You were nodding your head, John. You read it as
Yeah, no, I definitely felt like they were setting up the joke where he's like, I'm glad you like poetry, Buffy, but I teach mathematics or something. I thought that was the joke they were setting up when I was watching this. Couldn't really remember from previous watchings, but yeah. Also, it seemed like they were setting up, like if this was season 1 or 2, they would be setting up the joke where Buffy like accidentally like smashes the slide projector trying to do something with it. I thought they were setting that up
with
as
her
well.
super strength. I thought about that also. But I can't see a carousel now and not think of Mad Men.
I thought of that. I also thought of just like the only school or class that like would really use those was like art history to like show examples of like different.
Yeah, it really speaks to a very specific time when that was being used. You're not going to see those in classrooms anymore.
It must have been such a pain in the ass to like do a PowerPoint back then.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to really plan and prepare, right?
Yep.
And you probably wouldn't put your notes on the slide.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, which you shouldn't do anyway. It's bad presentation skills. I like what you said there, Yoder, because like it is a confusing scene. There's like lots of interesting little details that don't turn into a joke. They're just like all the trappings are there for an inversion or a Buffy crush, like a prop joke or a prop gag, and then they don't do that. Instead, it's just like a sort of it's okay if you quit scene.
Yeah.
I wonder how Trav would have rated this prop work.
Oh, 10 out of 10. It's fantastic. I mean, there's a little bit of tension in the scene just with her fidgeting with the carousel, right? And like the slide doesn't belong and it doesn't fit. It's her. She's popping herself out of school.
I feel
it's like a tight fit to remove.
The slide should have hit the professor in the face though, or something. Be a little more wacky. That's what I think.
I love this scene where Ben gets fired for attendance issues. It is the most condescending fuck you scene.
Oh,
I can't believe Ben sits there through that crap, man. Like, first of all, you show up 2 weeks late, which by the way, like if you quit a job, don't ever show up again. Like, but he's like, maybe I can get it back. Maybe they won't notice. I think because he's given such shitty advice and been generally not good at his job.
I think it's just because he literally hasn't been around for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He just didn't exist for 2 weeks, so he didn't even know.
He didn't know. Yeah, I think you missed the thrust of the scene, Michael, which is that he's finding out in this moment that he's been gone for 2 weeks.
Okay, so Ben doesn't know how long his transformations last, and so they come and go. Well, then he should have got fired a long time ago because, like, I don't know how long Glory has been taking over his body or whatever for other scenes, but
yeah, and he only has enough time to go and find out that he's fired. He wouldn't have like even been able to work that shift that day because Glory takes over again.
You know, when I was younger than Ben is now, I definitely called no showed a couple jobs, but then like maybe 2 weeks later came back because I needed that last paycheck, and it's a terrible feeling. But we could talk like the thing you're bringing up about the condescending nature of like this guy being like, take responsibility for your own problems. Is such a like fuck you feeling because it's like, you know, this guy literally doesn't know that Ben's got this whole demon god thing going on, but it's like that whole argument about like pull yourself up by your bootstraps, there's no one to blame but you, like ignores every problem that everybody else in the world has except for you know.
I mean, it's such the opinion of a middle manager, right? So like I fucking hate that level of opinion where it's like, I don't own this business. I have none of the liability, none of the overhead. I have a job and I'm in a comfortable state. And from my position of some comfort, and authority. I will deliver the reality of what the world is really like to you because you need help. And it's like, it's just a dick move, but they really go full throttle with that and then drop the like a wonderful weirdness of exposition of what's going on with Ben and Glory, which I like. I like that a lot as as an exposition drop for like, we've talked about how these episodes you could just like come in and watch and like, and maybe you'd get it, maybe you wouldn't. This episode's really well set up for you to get what's going on. And I really like that setup.
So do you suppose there's some sort of connection between Ben and Glory?
Oh man, that locker slap too is so good. Where like the hand transforms into, with painted nails.
Dude, the clothes like form fit to like whoever like shifts into them, because like Ben's outfit would be rather baggy on Glory, wouldn't it?
He invested in the unstable molecule scrubs early on.
Nerd.
Right, it's an expensive early purchase to go in for your magic item to have unstable scrubs, but that stuff's important. And then just this next scene about just shit getting so real in the teacher's office.
Yeah.
I love that scene. So Buffy has totally transitioned into the mom or the adult role, and then for Dawn to be excused so that the real people can talk, so adults can talk. It's just a wonderful scene, and the stakes are so high. And like, I really felt it in the scene, and you just feel like the power slipping, like changing hands, and Dawn not understanding what the consequences are of both her, her mom being dead and Buffy being responsible for her, and Dawn not going to school, and just like all those things like convening. Like, it's such a great scene. I want this scene to be 10 times longer than it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad all the like things you're pulling out from it. Like
well, I mean, I'm an adult, right? So like I understand a little bit more about what's going on than maybe I would have as a younger person. But there's something that happens when you have kids, and I don't have kids, but I mean, just from being around people with kids, where it's like you get treated like a real person. And this is such one of those adult scenes. And maybe we've talked about this sometimes when people accidentally think you're an adult or they think you have kids. Like when you're like, oh, this is your problem. Like, I mean, I just love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And I think we'll talk more about that later once we get into themes and stuff. But I mean, not that we can't keep talking about it now, but like there's a lot to unpack there, about where Buffy's been and about like where Willow is also. Cause like Willow doesn't respect Buffy as a parent, and it's like those scenes read so differently to me now that I'm not a parent either, but like a lot of my friends are. And I know very clearly, like, I can't like, contradict somebody's parenting in front of them. Like, I was like, those are intense. I did want to point out Dawn has joined the Leather Jacket Club, which is something that happens in the show when you go bad, but she's only a little bit bad. So it's a nice, like, light blue leather jacket.
So in terms of spin-off content, Buffy needs like some book or a film just starring Anya teaching capitalism. And maybe it's just like some documentary, short film, PSA kind of content, but like Anya's I'm an American speech and like what it's like to be an American. Like this was tough before that comment from Dawn came up, in her conflict with Buffy about like auto learning school somehow. This was like my top like quotation would have been from these capitalism lessons from Anya, just from raw observation of what it means to be an American. Oh, it's such a good little sequence.
Yeah, I love that idea. We could like make a book called like Anya's Little Red Book. It's like,
oh yeah, totally a riff on Chairman Mao. Some kind of like her face on the cover, very like an outline of her face, and then
big
go
picture
into
of
like
Anya's
details.
Little Red, White, and Blue Book.
Wouldn't it be green for money? I feel like that's what she really cares about.
Yoder, I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
I've enjoyed Anya's like getting all about money. I think ever since she played the game of life and kind of learned that lesson. In this episode, I had kind of the opposite reaction. I was like, oh, I don't like it getting like her getting political to say that like America is a capitalist society instead of democratic. I don't know. It's like, yeah, that's the truth, but like, I don't want to hear it from you, Buffy, right now. Like,
right.
Like I want to
Yeah.
escape into other things. So.
But it also
It's
feels
really-
like a real thing of like, you know, you got a friend who's like totally buying into something that you're like, oh no, you've gone down this path.
Right. Like she's just one friend away or one new contact away from a multi-level marketing scheme. Well, what like happened on Angel, or, you know, she's, going to fall into one of these like, you know, I want to say like money advice books, because there's a bunch of different like Bible / investment advice books that you can fall into. I don't want to name them here because I don't want to lead anyone down those paths.
Or she starts asking to see Xander's pay stub to like see how much he's raking in.
I mean, it's interesting because they've kept out of, I think, a lot of the kind of investment guru kind of world in this show. Not that they were going to enter it, but there's like a lot of different directions you can go from where Anya is. It's like, this is almost like the first chapter in one of those. I mean, okay, this is the worst one. Is Rich Dad Poor Dad is the worst one. I highly don't recommend that one. It's completely condescending. It's terrible advice. But that's the direction I feel like I would go next, just based on the raw observation style of Anya's outlook on capitalism.
Mad Money with Anya. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, or Jim Cramer world.
Yoder, why don't you do your next observation here?
Oh, okay. So Xander's trying to be there for Buffy, be a good pal, be supportive. But the only thing he can think of that's supportive is a bra. Which isn't that surprising for Xander, I guess. He couldn't think of a bridge or something. But anyway, I guess he's going to lift and separate Buffy's problems, is what he's offering to do.
All right, thank you, Yoder.
Is there a rim shot you can add in there?
You know, we usually have Yoder on for the sillier episodes, and just due to scheduling, he couldn't come on for the Buffy Bot episode, so we had him on for this more serious episode. And I'm glad that we have you here.
Wow, Yoder's getting told what role he plays.
I know what role I play. Have you not been paying attention to the episodes I've picked so far, Michael?
Oh no, I can tell. I can sense a Yoder episode or when I see that you're scheduled in the calendar, I get a little excited because I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a fun one. You have good taste. And I can tell this was not a Yoder episode. But I was excited for a minute when I thought it was, and then it just took a dark turn.
Yeah, I missed it by this much.
So Willow and Tara's fight is the kind of vague and specific fight that feels very real to me.
Yeah.
And just phenomenal fight scene where they're both fighting about specific problems, and then like just the little comment, right? That little phrase that describes you in a way that you hadn't thought you were described. So when Willow, Tara describes Willow as frightening or having power that's a little frightening, or she's frightened of her, that's enough to really trigger Willow. And I think that's absolutely what happens in a fight. And it's beautifully rendered, where someone says a thing about you that they haven't said before, and it's true, and you know it's true, but it's not what the fight's about. And
and it really just the way the fight flows from subject to subject, and like it gets out of control in that way, where you're like because where it starts, I agree with Tara completely, where it's like Willow is so overstepping her bounds with her like critique of Buffy's parenting, and like Tara has more experience, but like Willow can't hear any critique of herself in that moment and rolls her eyes, and it's like I could see how this spirals, and it's like I can follow it all, like terrible, like it's like you're going down this path you don't want to go down, but you can't stop.
Right, and Tara's rolling into a compliment. Is what she means to do, is talk about how advanced and sophisticated a witch that Willow is. She's become a really powerful witch, so powerful that it's frightening. And then she's concerned about what that means, and Willow takes it as an insult.
Yeah. And then Willow brings up something that's made her afraid or worried during the relationship, is like her, which I don't feel necessarily qualified to speak of, but like her not having been out before, and like all this, like stuff, but sorry, I'm getting my phone's blown up. But yeah, I thought that was a very good and painful fight to watch. You know.
Yeah, it was really good. And there's another scene that this is linked to, which we'll get to later. But I wonder how much of this, how this reads to, if there's anything specifically about this that reads differently to the queer community that I'm totally not catching up on for this scene. But I know in a later scene, there's a bunch of what I think are like warnings or triggers to the queer community for the later scene in the hospital. Yeah. But this one, it just felt like freaking solid fight scene. Like, this is a really painful one to watch.
Yeah.
And I watched it twice because I was like, this writing's so good. What's happening? Not to make fun of Buffy. Sorry.
Yeah, I can't speak to what you were saying, but it does feel very real though that like Willow's going to her partner. She just wants to support, like, and then Tara comes back with something else, and that boils up things that probably they should have had like just like more even tempered conversations about in general that it seems like they haven't talked about at all as far as Willow's powers and also like maybe where they see their relationship going or whatever.
Yeah. It's like they're at a point where they've almost gone too long in the relationship without fighting, and like once the fight starts, it's like everything they've been holding on to has to get like at least mentioned, and it makes it so much worse, you know. So the minions all failed out of sneak school. Terrible at it. Also, like one or two of those minions could have clearly heard the casual conversation, the casual Dawn is the key conversation in Buffy's house, because they were sneaking right at her window. Which feels like where that was going, but it didn't go that way. You know, a little misdirect. But man, when Giles hits that minion with the door, something about that dumb slapstick. Oh, I love it. It reminds me of Ernest Scared Stupid, which is why that's in the Rex this week.
It is a good film.
I love a creature getting hit with the door by accident.
They are kind of troll-like, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like how you capture Wesley, too. I mean, it's just like hit him twice with the door.
And then Giles goes full psycho, right? We don't know what he did. He's got some James Bond torture skills we don't know about.
Yeah, that Watcher training.
Earlier in the episode, it's like Buffy kind of like is like, "Hey, Giles, can you put your foot down so I don't have to?" And he's like, "Nah, you got to do it." And then like when Willow comes to him for her problems, he's like, "Well, I'm glad that's over with and we can move on." But then when a minion shows up, he's like, "Let me bring back the old Ripper." You know, like he's just like that's what he's there for. Apparently, he doesn't even care about making money at the store in this episode right now. It's like that's all he wants to be doing.
I kind of feel like I disagree about your assessment of how he handles Buffy and Willow. I think he's in Buffy's case is saying like,
off.
Yeah,
but,
he's like,
yeah.
It's time for you to step up. And I think it's not get over it. It's more like now you can move forward, right? But I mean, it's all in the service of a joke. I get it.
Yeah, no, I mean it's not bad advice, but like also it's like both of his like both of those instances involve him doing like the least amount of work. I guess like
yeah, good call. Those
except
minions
for the
so
blood
weak.
work, except for the good gory work of smashing minions.
How about that scene with Glory at the culture fair, just sort of holding Tara's hand and being increasingly threatening.
Yeah,
that is just the sense of dread in that scene is really, really intense, and the sense of threat is really intense.
And it really speaks to like, I don't know, when you really have such a powerful threat, you can do it all in broad daylight with like bright natural lighting, and you can do it in a huge crowd, and it feels more dangerous than if you're like alone at night, you know?
Totally.
And God, yeah. I mean, Tara is just such a like sweet character. You hate to see any like it really tugs on you to see terrible things happen to her, you know?
That's true. Yeah, I think there's something about Tara being under threat that is really, really affecting in a way that like having, you know, Willow kidnapped over and over again in the first couple seasons, or even having Dawn kidnapped doesn't quite meet that level for some reason for me. Like,
Yeah.
I want everything to be okay for Tara.
Yeah. Oh man, and the creepy way Glory goes for the handhold before you see her. And even the side shot, the hair is curly. For a second, it could look like Willow, you know?
Yeah.
It's rough stuff.
I was invested, I will say that, but I probably have the incredibly wrong read of like, I was like, that looks like a fun fair. Like in the background of like, just like there's a lot of stuff going on. There's probably a lot of food tents. Yeah, and like
Yeah. There's
I was like,
Chinese
that's a
New Year
fun fair.
dragons running around.
Yeah, they went all out on this fair. I know you guys are being serious, and I appreciate those moments too. But like, look like a fun fair. That's all I gotta say.
I bet UC Sunnydale puts on a lot of fun events.
Mm-hmm. And also, yeah, Glory does that really creepy, weird thing of licking the blood off of Tara's hand, being like, humans are gross, but the key, that's something. So, and then she spits it out. Does the key have like special blood that tastes special? Is that the implication here?
Must have.
Have you tasted key blood before, Dennis?
I've licked a key, I'm sure, because I was a child at some point.
Have you made a key bleed?
I imagine it tastes like a penny.
Okay. So just more coppery. Oh, that is amazing prop work, I have to say. Wow.
I love that you had a classic skeleton key.
Yeah, no, because this is
that just your apartment
This
key?
is the key to my new apartment.
Whoa. Man,
that's got to be one of many keys. That can't be the only key.
It is not the only key, but it's
you're just holding Dawn in your hand right now. That's great. I love that England still uses like ancient skeleton keys.
Not just England, but mostly England.
Yeah, no, they're way more common over here.
That's awesome. When Glory accuses Tara of lying to her because Glory misinterpreted her like things on her own and nobody told her anything, that to me feels a lot like what 2019 fandom feels like. Like people getting so mad that their headcanons aren't accurate and like accusing like Marvel movies for being like, oh, you didn't have my like my fanship work out, like how dare you, like it just reminded me of the entitlement of fans right now.
Well, it doesn't help that so many writers steal from fandom for ideas for what to do next in their shows. And they're literally looking for headcanon to turn into canon.
Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, some of it is so good. Like some of that stuff, like I've been reading a fair amount of Sherlock slash fiction. And some of it is like, this is as good as anything that was on the show, sometimes better. Like they just should have gone with this.
No, absolutely. There's fantastic ideas. They should steal them. But as a fan, if you're putting your ideas out there and then them not using them, there needs to be some system to reward fans for being on the right track. I don't know. There doesn't have to be. I'm dropping this opinion immediately. This is going in a bad direction. Okay, so this is the scene I was thinking about later. So when they're in the hospital and Tara has been touched by Glory and given what sounds like a horrific, never-ending mental illness, there's this scene with the same doctor, of course, who fired Ben earlier, asks Willow, is she your sister? And then lets her know that she's going to just have one night in the psych ward. And I assume that this is a trigger for queer people, that this treatment of your partner and also your feelings of powerlessness, though the scene definitely doesn't delve into that. But for whatever reason, that's all I could think about when I was watching this scene, with the is she your sister line as kind of the early part of the scene.
Yeah.
And then, everybody shows up and of course is very empathetic to Tara and Willow, especially Tara for her unique situation that she's in. Yeah. This is just a nightmare scene. And I want the nightmare to end by the end of the episode, and it doesn't. And so this particular scene felt like the high drama, because the last scene, it gets really cut off. We're feeling for Tara and what this new world and situation might be like. I mean, we'll get to that, I guess, and that's when, we kind of hit the end of the episode.
Yeah.
But this hospital scene's also very well done. I don't know if it's necessarily trying to evoke so much of how maybe queer relationships are treated in hospitals. I don't think it's quite, because it's actually quite empathetic, though it still evokes some of that language.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's purposely
other.
touching on it because there really are horror stories from real life of, especially in the States before gay marriage was like ratified in all states. Of like people being denied access to their partner and like the family that had abandoned them having decision makings instead and like all that stuff. And yeah, it's a tough scene.
Moving on from the tough. No, I don't know. What's the transition for that? But
so it's probably my job to make a transition.
So, watching the show, Tara's often like so quiet or doesn't like input that much into the group. It was interesting watching this and that like she doesn't have any lines during the whole scene with Glory on the bench. Like I think she whimpers and at most like shakes her head no, that she's not going to tell her who the key is. And also like when she's starting to talk about her past things, which maybe she's talked to Willow about before, but it's like Willow then interrupts her and kind of stops her from talking about that stuff, was kind of interesting. And then after she gets touched by Glory in the head, I don't know if that's the best way to say that, but now
call it
she's
a brain
like,
drain.
The brain drain. Now she's like very verbal and just kind of saying random things that come to her, it seems like. I just think that's an interesting switch of characters that like she's been so quiet and submissive and now she's like almost more outgoing and more vocal at the moment.
Yeah, the filter is gone when you're bananas for a terrible way to say it.
That's the clinical way, I think, right?
Yeah, and I think her gibberish is pretty good. I mean, it's like exaggerated and stuff, but I totally know that feeling of like from hearing somebody just like spouting random things because things are going on in their head that you don't have any way of like following. So you're just like, yeah, cats, yeah, or they kill mice, yeah, that was the line, yeah.
So I was going to say that Spike was kind of like the dad in this episode, but really he's more like an uncle. He's like the cool uncle in Into the Spider-Verse where Morales goes and like wants to hang with and chat with.
But he's also a supervillain. Yeah.
Yeah. So when Dawn goes to see Spike to get some tips or advice, whatever, and talk about her situation and get some empathy, I actually love where she really oversteps her, not just her relationship with Spike, but like the reality of what Spike is when she says, when she talks about how her situation might be incomprehensible to him. She's like, well, what would you know? Right. And he's surprisingly kind to her when she asks him, like, what would you know about this kind of thing? Because she's really debating with like, is she evil? Right. That's the kind of the tone of the conversation. Like, is she good or is she evil? And Spike is definitely evil, but also kind of good. And he kind of talks about that a bit. I should bring the quote in, but she's not quite evil. She's just kind of evil.
Yeah, she's baby blue leather jacket.
Yeah. But such an interesting scene, and it's unique because it really pushes Dawn into Spike's world. I think for whatever reason they've done this a few times, but now it felt like they're really much more similar than I've thought. Dawn skipping out on school and stuff. She is clearly a Spike in the making. And this scene of like this cool uncle kind of made me think about, Into the Spider-Verse, because she could go a couple different directions with this power that's, at this point unfounded. This is part of her origin story into what's next for her, assuming that she stays on the show. And I would assume she will, that she's going to be like a morally gray character, both evil and good, or kind of nice or whatever Spike characterizes himself. But anyway, this scene was great, man. Every scene every character scene like in this episode was really killing it for me this time. I think there's really great stuff that's really pushing the story forward. Not to complain about filler stuff in general, but like this is a solid episode. I think Tough Love might be the top one for season 5 for me.
Oh,
Wow.
I'm almost unprepared for you taking this so seriously because all my notes are like silly in comparison. But the book that Willow pulls out is called Darkest Magic. And I was like, do you think there are dark and darker volumes?
Yes.
I went through every frame of that book being flipped through to see if any words were legible, and none were.
Well, they can't let kids be just saying evil spells in real life out in the world, you know. That'd be problematic.
I mean, this could be a question for later, but what spells does Willow cast? Because I had my Dungeons and Dragons hat on and I was looking at those spells.
Yeah.
Can't help it. So I think she starts with, and also like solo wizard going after a powerful wizard plus minions, super dumb. I mean, everybody knows that.
That's you need a party. These things are built for party battles.
Also, like my estimate, I think like Willow is like a level 5, level 6 wizard. Because that's when you start to come into your power as a wizard. You start getting additional, access to spells and stuff.
Hey everybody, it's John here at Buffy Virgin World headquarters with the cool new green screen. Just dropping in the middle of the video to tell you that our video got erased from this point forward, so it's going to be the video puppets for the rest of the podcast. Enjoy!
Wow, so Tara's guess was accurate.
I think so. Yeah, I think she's leveled up like one level since the Watcher Council did their interviews to like establish where they were at, their experience levels. But like she comes in with darkness, right? So like the lights go down a bit. I think that was a mistake. I think it, that's that kind of thing like can unsettle someone, but it's also a bit of a warning. Then she casts Thicken, I think, which is kind of like a hold person spell to keep Glory in place. Then she has the knives, which I guess like any animate or like any kind of like, it's basically a magic missile with some flavor.
Yeah.
Right. Doesn't really. Then she's got Call Lightning. I don't know. Maybe I have Call Lightning's first. I feel like
Call Lightning
was first, yeah.
is actually her big spell. Like that's
I agree.
like she's got Sith powers now. Like,
yeah, the lightning. It was like, could she only use that once a day? Like, why isn't she just hitting her with that again?
I think she's wasting a spell slot by casting, the knife spell. Obviously, we know that now. But Glory's immune to piercing damage. But Call Lightning, on the other hand, fantastic. And then the snakes, also another fail. So also immune to poison.
I think the problem with snakes was that she just rolled low, so she was trying to call like a dozen snakes.
Or a giant snake.
She rolled like a 5 or something, so she could only call one.
Yeah, that happens. She definitely did levitate and also like some kind of earth shake to the building to like bring about the apocalypse early before she showed up, I think.
Y'all a bunch of nerds.
Says the guy on the podcast.
Just being on a podcast is enough. Yeah, that's probably true. So I don't know what kind of spell Willow was casting for this, but God damn it, if Willow cannot spit a very respectably sized loogie, there's a screen cap of it. If you scroll down,
Yeah.
That is a lot of mucus that she spits up onto Glory's face.
Yeah, and there was no prep for that either.
Exactly. That's what's so impressive that she just like I think we all could muster that up with given time and forewarning, but she just has it ready to go.
Yeah, and you'd think like in the middle of fighting a god, you'd be pretty dry mouthed.
Yeah, it's super gross too. The way it like glops down her face. It's.
She rolled a nat 20 for that one for sure.
That's more like a NAS 20. No.
It's a respectable pun. Well done, sir.
Oh man! So at the end, just location-wise, I think they're in Tara's dorm room from season 4, which means Tara's been paying that room rent.
Oh.
Because
no, it totally is. It has the same painting and the same bad paint job.
Yeah, that seems crazy to me.
Yeah, we're back in Tara's single. So she's been living in the double with. So somebody's paying too much rent.
Yeah, And Tara has like massive student loans because her folks aren't paying for shit.
Right. Do you think? I think what's happened is that Buffy's actually still paying for the dorm for the double this whole time, and is just like forgotten. That's accruing.
Willow and Tara are living in Buffy's double.
Yeah.
We saw Buffy moving out. It was a different location.
Yeah, but I think Buffy just didn't just still paying rent. I think Buffy forgot.
But the dorm was different. She had a dorm with 2 doors that were on either side.
Oh.
The dorm that Willow's at looks like it's a redress of the same set from their season 4 dorm.
Oh, okay. Wow.
This is
I can't believe I just called anyone a nerd.
That other podcasts don't. But let's talk about the emotional and dramatic ending to this episode.
Yeah, this is a great ending. I mean, you're just getting into this idea of what responsibility means, and now both Buffy and Willow have been gifted this insane responsibility. Buffy taking care of Dawn, as both a maternal figure and like a teacher, an instructor, a mentor. I mean, it's a lot to take on. And I wish we'd spent a little more time, on the scene where Buffy kind of reveals to Dawn what went on behind closed doors, which was that, Buffy needs to figure out what is going on with Dawn and like manage her better, or she's going to have to, be pushed into the foster care system, or Dawn will be taken care of by someone else. Like Buffy has to prove herself as a parent. And it's such an awesome challenge for her. I really like the framing of that, because it feels like both a completely natural within the show kind of challenge, and it's like very specific with obvious outcomes. So like the stakes are really high. And then when she shares those stakes with Dawn, Dawn's like, oh shit, I do have to actually work with Buffy on this stuff. I mean, I love it. It's just like the bullshit ends immediately. And I appreciate that Dawn didn't fight that. That felt like a really good, just an amazing moment for those characters. And then, Willow kind of, I guess, very quickly coming into the like realization that she's going to be taking care of Tara, and, she's going to see glimpses of the person she loved, and, it's not going to ever be the same again, but she's going to take on the responsibility of like taking care of her for however long that is. Wow. So both these realizations are happening, and, simultaneously kind of people are coming to grips with this is the new reality. And then Glory busts through the side of the house. Oh, that's the best.
Yeah.
The stakes just got raised. They got raised again. Yeah. I love it.
And that's when, of course, like this is part of the love I have for the show is like, they're dealing with heavy things I have like a real, like actual life connection to, the like stress of the caregiving of somebody you love. And it's like this shit's real. But then they're also like, but then there's this monster.
Yeah.
Right. And this doesn't feel like monster as metaphor. It's just straight up and then the other thing.
Yeah.
And the monster. That's destroyed both of you. So now they both have every reason to destroy Glory together because, Tara's been affected by her and, Glory's after Dawn. So it's like, oh, this is a great place to pause. And I'm so excited for the next episode. I mean, this is probably the best cliffhanger I've seen in the show as far as like the stakes.
Yeah, shit goes bad in your life, and then you have to fight a vengeful god as well. It's not one or the other; it's both. It's Buffy.
Welcome to Buffy. We got a hook for you, and let's move on to questions for the group.
Questions for the group.
So Dennis, what do you think is the this comic book that Xander's reading at the Magic Box?
So Yoder discovered it. I did investigating, but I couldn't quite figure it out. Based on your high def screenshot and what I noticed in the thing, I knew from the interiors that it was for sure an X-Men comic because I recognized my gal Rogue.
I saw Rogue as well. Yeah.
And then there's a later shot. I actually pulled it up where you can see the cover.
Yeah, that was the most helpful thing for me. But
yeah, so I knew it was like an X-Men comic from either the year 2000 or 2001. And I want to point out 2000 and 2001 were really big years for X-Men because 2000 is when the first movie came out, which like notoriously like Joss Whedon did some script writing for, and like the worst line of the movie is his Storm's "What happens When a toad gets struck by lightning.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, I think Joss Whedon has had his fair shot at redeeming his X-Men cred, but he'll always have that. And it's also 2000 is when X-Men Unlimited or X-Men Ultimates came out, and then 2001 is when Grant Morrison's new X-Men came out. So big time for X-Men. This comic is none of those things.
It's before the new X-Men run. I was looking at the interior pages, and like the cover, we could just see a little bit of, and I was like, well, I thought I recognized the artist for the interior, but I was wrong. But I was like searching for all of his X-Men comics.
Who did you think it was?
Salvador LaRocca or LaRocha.
Oh, yeah.
I thought the drawings looked kind of like how he draws characters. And then I just was like, well, I'll just go by the cover and the range. I have this app on my phone for tracking all my comics to make sure like I don't buy duplicates anymore. And like it has like the cover image, for each series. So yeah, it's X-Men number 109, which was a 100-page mammoth issue for some reason. It looks like it came out in February, but they're all wearing Santa's hats, so I don't know how publishing works for comics back then. But like, yeah, so it's drawn by. Oh, I didn't get that part, but it's written by the guy that wrote like 99% of all X-Men comics, Chris Claremont. So.
Wow, this is still during the Claremont era.
I think he left and came back, and
Oh, look at You know what? I misinterpreted that cover. I was searching for I guess that's what I see now in your high res version is like maybe the White Queen's arm. I interpreted that as the tentacle of Omega Red. So I was searching for X-Men 2000 Omega Red covers, and it was like impossible.
I was literally just going by the logo and like how there's all that white space at the top. That's how I was like scrolling and looking through.
That's good. Yeah, I was going by the logo also because it's a particular time in X-Men. I interpreted the white space on the top though to mean that it was an issue of Uncanny X-Men.
Yeah, so I was searching Uncanny too.
Yeah.
We're both nerds.
This is the level.
Yeah, thanks for listening to Comic Book Dicks, the detective show where two private investigators discover what comic that was.
This is totally why people listen to a Buffy podcast.
They want the minutia though about the show. I mean, I wanted to know what comic Xander was reading.
All right, let's see what other questions we got.
So I want to go back to that scene. Buffy's quitting school. Did you pop a slide when you quit school? Did you find teachers say understanding things, or do they look at you like a lost puppy when you quit school or drop a class? Or do you even get this moment? Because I don't think you have to formally quit. I think you just straight up drop or call a number.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you have to confront the teacher anymore. You can definitely do it online. I mean, you could do it online when I was a student. And that was like this year.
I definitely had this conversation with some profs when I dropped out. I don't know that I had to, but I definitely did. And it went about as well as it does for Buffy, which is like, oh, you're quitting, huh?
Yeah, they don't.
Well,
care.
all right. It's about like that.
Right, because you quitting is just less work for them, right? Like it's not.
Yeah, at least Buffy's teacher like knew what was going on in her life, like.
Yeah.
But I was, when I saw the episode, I was like, oh man, I hope it's not like too far in that she's like paying for the entire class as opposed to,
right.
Withdrawing soon enough that like.
There might be like a bereavement clause that lets her get out of that.
Yeah, you would think so. You would hope. So my recommendation for this episode is Dead Man on Campus. No, just kidding.
And if you work at the bursar's office at any of the UC systems, please message us about how this would work.
All right, next question here. Should Dawn go live with her dad? Because Buffy's only 20, right? I mean, can she take guardianship of her sister? And I know that the show's just written by people who have an idea of how the world works, and this is what they decided. So that's fine. Yeah, I don't need to go into a Visa level argument about this. But just like, shouldn't Dawn live with her dad? Doesn't that make sense?
The deadbeatness of Buffy's dad seems to be on the increase as the show goes on. Where like it's the impression you get in the first couple seasons is that he's probably just like in the next town over and he visits on holidays or whatever. And now it's like when Buffy's mom dies, it's like, oh yeah, we don't have a good address for him. We don't even know what country he lives in.
Yeah, between seasons 1 and 2, she lives with her dad. Yeah,
right.
I actually have a theory. I've got a theory that in order to create life must be taken. I think Buffy's dad was erased when Dawn was created.
Ooh.
It's just a theory.
Not the memory of him, just the present.
No, not the memory.
Yeah.
It has to still exist for their lives to make sense.
Well, my theory is that John Ritter's character would be a better dad than their actual dad at this point.
Bring back Ted. Bring back Ted.
You mean a pile of circuit boards be a better dad?
Not in his current state. Jeez, Mike.
8 rules for dating my teenage demon. Yeah.
As we talk about the deadbeatness, it makes me think like another fan theory for this could be like, or a way that, this kind of Dawn character works. It sounds like one of the writers just married someone who had kids and then had to like basically take on the dad role. And so then it's like, what's it like when you marry into a relationship where they already have grown kids who are like 10 years old? It's like you're now an important figure in their lives and you kind of probably get a chance to rewrite the story of their lives like you were always there and always supporting them in some way. This is like, I bet there's a writer who like at least remarried who had the Dawn idea.
They remarried someone with kids and was like, what if this person dies? I'm responsible. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. I mean that, oh my gosh. No, then you just, you disappear. Then you pull Buffy's dad.
God.
All right. That seems pretty heavy. So this is a good transition into themes and deep stuff.
Deep stuff.
So just to talk about the scene with, I think we kind of already talked about it, but the scene where Willow and Tara get into a fight, and particularly the beginning of it, where Willow is like, it's like almost like people are treating me like my lack of experience with this means my opinion is worth less.
Yeah.
And I feel like I related to that quite a bit because I feel like that is the sort of like, that's the privileged mindset that I have to constantly keep rewinding myself back from, where I'm just like, but why is everybody treating me like my opinion is worth less than other people's? And it's like, because you know less and have less experience with the thing you're talking about than the other people. Like I feel like that's a very common thing. And if you come from a sort of a position of privilege, I think you're used to people sort of automatically treating your opinion as valid. And then when you're in a position where it's like, oh, actually your opinion is totally not very helpful here, you suddenly feel like you're being treated unfairly. And I really related to Willow's, like her sort of like, I mean, you'd think my mom would have to die for me to be able to talk about dead moms.
Yeah. I also, I felt the exact same way. I also reminded me that I, when we did the body episode, I like clipped a line from this where I introduced myself as a dead mom expert, and I was clipping from this where Tara's like, I'm not an expert. I just have the one dead mom.
Just lost the one. Yeah.
But I mean, all through, I mean, it really hits Willow. Willow really pays for her attitude of privilege, but all through the episode, she's dealing with that, right? Like,
yeah,
she doesn't know, and she eventually has to deal with some of that heavy responsibility, and it's a game changer. Yeah.
I mean, I think we've talked about it also, but just responsibility. That's feels like a big theme in this episode. That's really well and explicitly talked to about Buffy's responsibility to be an adult, raise and be as taking care of Dawn, and then Willow's responsibility now for Tara. Both of them moving into this interesting caretaker maternal responsibility. It's a real crazy transition. I mean, it's not so crazy for Buffy. It's maybe definitely crazy for Willow, but just an interesting path for them to go down. And I'm paying close attention to the way that you phrased that last observation of yours, Dennis.
What did I say?
Oh, just talking to the way that's a game changer for Willow. So maybe that's a prediction I need to make.
And I just wanted to point out, like, like to pile on this responsibility thing about where this show started off with Buffy being, from the outside point of view, a delinquent teenager who's always skipping class, and Joyce having to be the one who's trying to rein it in. And now for her to have like totally transitioned to this other space, is pretty amazing. And I mean, it's one of the benefits of a long running TV show is seeing characters transition over years. But it is really interesting because that was Buffy's character trait right at the beginning. Is like, you cause trouble in school.
This is kind of related to the Buffy responsibility thing, but is she running the gallery as well? Or do they address that ever?
They haven't.
Yet?
My feeling is that Buffy
space,
is not running the gallery, but yeah, maybe we can make that a prediction.
What's going on with the gallery?
Gallery's a dead letter. No one's interested in the gallery anymore. That just got dropped hard. Thanks for bringing that up, Yoder. I totally didn't think about that.
Well, I guess I was thinking about it in the way of like, okay, I hope that they own their house. Because like, what income does Buffy have coming in? Like, maybe deadbeat dad is sending a check every month. I don't know. It's like, what's going on there with that?
Yeah, I mean, you assume there's enough of an inheritance or something that pays out to cover the mortgage, but she better be talking to the mortgage company about that, because that's obviously that'll be a huge issue. She could easily lose the house. That's a very good point.
And
don't let adults watch TV shows. That's also the point.
Yeah, you got to pay for shit.
How's she gonna handle the mortgage?
I guess I might move on to the point I have. I mean, it's not that uncommon for episodes of Buffy, but like kind of stuck out to me this time of like, it's just like all the female characters in this episode are like kind of taking a beating pretty hard. Like, Buffy and Dawn have their school troubles, still dealing with the aftermath of their mom. Tara gets kidnapped and like brain drained, and also Willow and Tara have their fight. Anya's about the only one that doesn't have any serious issues going on, I guess, this episode.
Anya learns about capitalism and thinks it's great.
Yeah, which that could definitely lead down a road of like some problems for her, but right now.
Yeah, the boys aren't really taking it as hard this up.
Yeah, I think that's kind of why I picked up on too, on like Giles just kind of taking a back seat of being like, yep, I'm here, but I'm not doing nothing, so not my problem.
Not my problem. All right. I think that's a good way to end themes and deep stuff. So let's move on to recommendations.
Recommendations.
I am going to recommend, because of the brain drain, and I don't know if I've recommended this before, Brain Damage, the Frank Hennelofer movie, because there's an alien that eats brains. It's really good. Because of the struggle of caregiving and of caregiving of siblings, I'm going to recommend the worst case scenario with that, and that's Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, which is a movie you really should see if you haven't. And I think both Buffy and Willow seem to be doing a lot better job than Betty Davis in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. And because the minion got hit by a door, I'm recommending Ernest Scared Stupid, which is hilarious and has the troll getting hit by a car door without Ernest even noticing it. And the troll is pretty similar to the minions, really. The Ernest movies are highly underrated.
That one especially. Scared Stupid is really good. The Miak joke still floors me every time.
For the sibling taking care of movie, I thought you were going to recommend Basket Case, but I don't know if you've already recommended that movie.
I think I have, but I could have done 2 Frank Hennelofer movies.
Yeah. I remember that was one movie where like, because we had different work schedules when we lived together, Dennis, but like I would come home and like you'd be watching some movie and be like, okay, fine. Like sometimes I'd sit down and watch with you, and other times I'd just like go back to my room to like unwind after getting off work. But that was one where I was like, what the hell are you watching? Like, what is this movie, and I kind of had to sit and watch it with you just because I was intrigued at what was going on.
Yeah, and Basket Case has a cameo in Brain Damage. So they're in the same world. All right, those are the recs. Why don't we move on to predictions?
Virgin predictions.
Okay, let's take a look. So, Michael, at the moment, your overall accuracy is a 64.91, while your accuracy for this season, taken in isolation, is a 68.29. So let's see what predictions we can address in this episode. Going way back, season 2, episode 12, Michael, you predicted Buffy will not have children.
I don't think this is one we will settle on today, but I just wanted to bring it up because she is in a parental role to Dawn.
Good point. I don't think that we're gonna. Yeah, I think we need to leave this one alone for now.
I actually want to make a big argument about this one when we do our season 5 wrap up, or perhaps when we do the finale. But I have some opinions about it.
Yeah, I don't think we're allowed to have this argument without Travis present.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Season 3, episode 16, Michael, you predicted that Willow will wear the Dark Willow outfit again in a future season. Now, I know that you meant Vampire Willow when you wrote this, but Willow does have a different atmosphere about her here, something that I just wanted to point out.
She's got dark eye contact lenses or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she doesn't change her outfit. She changes her eyes.
In the season 3 recap, Michael, you predicted that Buffy will fail a college course. So what do you guys think? I mean, I think probably this is going to be a withdrawal on her transcript, probably not a fail, given the bereavement.
I feel like those are two. Has she not like failed a class?
We've never seen her fail a class. That's the thing. I bet she has.
Yeah,
there's no
I feel like
proof.
it's safe to assume, but
so
they take it very literally, David. There's no way.
Yeah, I'd say this is either a deny or a leave open.
I think we can leave this one open
because we don't know.
The teacher in the opening would have had to say, "Well, by withdrawing from my class, it'll count as a failure." Like that would like what you would need to like get a success on this prediction, I guess.
Okay. So, season 5, episode 12. This is one we probably should have tackled a little bit earlier, but Spike is going to get his brain sucked out by Glory, and it will remove the chip. We now know that this is impossible, that a vampire cannot be brain drained. So this one is hereby denied.
Because they don't have brains? Or no, I watched that episode, I know.
Season 5, episode 13, Michael, you predicted that Ben and Glory are the same person.
Really?
And was that not confirmed then? Oh.
I'm sorry. I've been trying to pull off this joke about me not remembering it because of things, but it's never worked. But are you very high?
So we're going to go ahead and confirm that one, Michael.
Wait, what? Ben and Glory are the same person? What?
Do you think that they sublet? You suspect that there's a connection?
Do they have separate closets? How does this work?
Okay. And with that being all, you have one denial and one confirmation. That brings your overall accuracy down to a 64.81. So you've lost about 0.1% there. And your accuracy for this season down to a 67.44.
Gosh, you have to really get a ton right for this to work. But of course, like every time we add a prediction, it just changes the math too, which is lovely. So I have 5 new predictions, and one of those is a super. So hopefully I'm not redoing any predictions. Apparently I do that. But here's my first prediction. Tara will only recover from the brain injury a moment before dying. I think they could do like a full Angel in Hell arc for her to recover, but I don't think so. I think this show is gonna kill her off. I think that she's gonna recover just a little bit of her mind, enough to be cognizant to know that what she's doing, and then she can sacrifice herself for Buffy and the gang to continue. This is maybe too complicated a prediction, but it's a noble sacrifice on Tara's part, and I'm sad about it, but I think that's what they'll do. I probably should just say, like, Tara will recover from the brain injury, not specifying how long, and then Tara will die sacrificing herself for for Buffy and gang. But instead, I combine them so to ensure that it's denied. Glory is going to eat some Dawn blood in the next episode, season 5, episode 20, Spiral.
We got to make sure she's a key, right?
Yeah, got to test that key blood. That was a fun thing, and I bet Glory will do that again. I'm saying next episode and not season 5 because, like, let's just make it a harder target.
I like how you're making it harder for you to get successes here.
Well, it raises the stakes a little bit to be more specific, and also easier to deny rather than some of these are staying open forever. So
yeah, there's
let's
a lot
just
of
be more
ones.
specific. Someone, this is third prediction, someone, possibly Spike, will joke about Spike being Dawn's uncle. I want a good, are you her uncle? What? No, mate. Or like, yeah, mate. I'm her uncle. Whatever. Just like a joke about Spike.
Spike's got a bit
Dawn's
Australian, I think, there.
Been watching a bunch of Australian movies lately. As a genre. And then Willow, Willow will use the lightning spell again. That's a great spell. That is a powered up spell. That's probably the best in her arsenal. She'll definitely use that spell again. And super prediction, Buffy will go back to college in season 6. And I was debating this because I wasn't sure if she was going to go back to school. And I actually had written the inverse of this, that she would never go back to school. But like, I think if she doesn't, this woman, Buffy, needs a distraction from reality. And her full-time job is slayering. I think she needs to go back to school or she will lose her mind. So season 6, going back to school. She might go back to start going back to school in season 5, but she'll be back in school in season 6. I could actually say Buffy will be in college in season 6. Let me just do that. I mean, like, go back to school. She could start and then they'll go back for another, round of classes. So Buffy will go back to college as my super prediction.
If she goes to a trade school, does that not count, or is that?
Yeah, I wouldn't, right? Because a trade school is different than college, right? Nice try, Yoder. I'm not going to say anything about her going to a trade school.
Yeah, that's where I was trying to lead you down. She learns to be a carpenter to work with Xander. Obviously, hijinks will ensue. Oh, wait, I just wrote my own fan script of the episode.
By the way, I'm super gutted they're going to kill Tara off. I'm not happy with this decision on the show's part. Everyone's making faces. I'm like trying to read these faces, listening audience. John had the best face.
Well, it's hard to say anything.
What do you want me to say?
Who's Tara? Oh, don't you? Oh, I want to make another prediction on this. So Tara will die. Boom. Then we know that's going to happen. Willow will cast a spell on herself to wipe her mind to forget Tara. So it's a separate thing. Is Willow will cast a spell to forget Tara.
There is like a very bad TV trope of like gay or lesbian characters like having bad fates on TV shows, isn't there? It seems like.
Mm-hmm. And on that note,
not that I know anything of the future of this show.
Yoder, what are you up to these days? Where can people find you?
I'm on that Twitter as Awesome Yoder, the word awesome, and then my last name Yoder. Yeah, I don't know. Making comics sometimes. I'm hoping to start making a regular comic again. That's just whatever the heck I want to draw.
Awesome. And I'm Dennis St. John. You can find me on Twitter at Dennis Comics. That's DenisComix. And that's also my .com and my Instagram. My comics, Monster Club Comics, and Land of Many Monsters and Many More Monster Tales, and Amelia are all available on my website. Yeah, you can see Snoopy in Space, an animated series that's on Apple TV Plus. Right now, I worked on that. Yeah, thank you one and all for listening and talking to us at Buffy Virgin. You can visit our website, buffyvirgin.com, for links to our blog, our YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Reach out. We love to hear from you. And don't forget to rate us and review us on the podcast listener of your choice. Slam that subscribe button. Give us some ratings. We need them. And we'll see you in hell.